The Season 9 characters have released on the global side of Black Clover Mobile, and it feels really fast the way everything has been releasing. Like, even more so now than at the beginning of the game when people were initially complaining that things were releasing too fast. So I'm hoping things are going to slow down now that we have more or less caught up to the JP side of the game, for the most part. But today we're going to be talking about how you guys should build this character if you did in fact pull for her, if you had the black crystals to pull for her, and we're going to talk about what skills you want to upgrade on her first, what skill pages you want to equip on her, what gear you want to run on her, whether or not you should actually try to dupe her out and enhance her, what talents you want to run on her talent tree, and then last but not least, what teams does she fit well on for both PvP and PvE. So hopping right into this, we're going to start by taking a look at her LR passive. You get this for getting her to LR. Upon taking damage from a defender, grants a 30% increased damage dealt buff to the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns. That is very good. Now the catch is it's to the ally with the highest attack. This does mean attack stat. So if you're trying to run her with a magic attack character and they don't have a very high attack, they will not get that buff, right? So you want to run her with an attacker type mage. Keep that in mind when you guys are running this Kahono to maximize her potential and her damage. As for her skill 1 is called Forte Bubbles, and it grants a 25% increased attack buff to the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns. Now that starts out as 20%, you can upgrade it. As you upgrade it, you increase the amount of attack you are giving to the ally. And the amount of attack you can give to an ally with just her skill 1 is actually insane. That's really good, and it lasts for 2 turns, so you can stack it, right? So that's absolutely really good. And then her skill 2 is called Nullity of Courage. 80% chance to grant an ally an extended buff duration by 1 turn. You can upgrade that all the way to 100%, which is nice. And then grants an ally increased attack level 3 buff for 2 turns. That increases their attack by 70%. And then furthermore, grants an ally opening aria. This increases their penetration by 5% and crit damage by 2%. And then upon gaining 5 instances of opening aria, because it stacks, it removes all 5 instances, and then for 2 turns, you get Festival Aria, where you are going to have 60% increased penetration, 45% increased crit damage, and 15% increased damage dealt overall. That's just an insane buff. That's going to allow you to do some crazy nuking, especially with characters like Black Asta, who are going to have a bunch of attack, right? And then for her special skill is called On Stage. It grants self a 40% increased mobility buff. This is actually really good because you're going to be able to use her special skill. You're going to be able to give all allies opening aria, and then if you have this skill upgraded, you will be able to use her again right at the beginning of the next turn and use her skill 2 to allow her to go, and she'll be going before the rest of your team because of that mobility buff, and that will allow her to give opening aria to an ally again, increasing their overall penetration and crit damage, which is very nice, right? Additionally, this skill is going to grant allies an increased crit rate of level 4, which increases their crit rate by 26%. And that buff lasts for 2 turns. So a very well-built character, a very good kit in my opinion, works really well, everything works really nicely. And then her combined attack grants the partner mage increased attack level 3 buff, and it also, during the partner mage's attack, there is a 30% chance to inflict a stun status element on the enemy for 1 turn. You can upgrade this to increase your stun chance. Now I think this is like the weakest part of her kit, like the least useful, but maybe in certain PvE scenarios you will find some uses for this. But in general, if I was to tell you guys how to upgrade her skills, I would definitely go special skill first to increase that mobility, to allow her to do her supporting more, because if she increases her mobility, then she's going to get her second turn faster and be able to use her skill 2 faster, right? So it's very important that you have that and that you are building her in general with some speed so she's faster than the rest of your team. So I do think that's really good and very helpful, so make sure you guys upgrade that first. And then I would upgrade the skill 2 second, because you want to get that extended duration for the buffs. You want a 100% chance to have that, so I would upgrade that second, and then I would upgrade the skill 1. Now honestly, it might be debatable if you want to upgrade skill 2 or skill 1 first. That's up to you guys, but personally I think that extension on the buffs is very important and very good. But also increasing the amount of damage your attacker does can be what you're looking for too. It just kind of depends on how you're trying to build this character and how you're trying to use her given this scenario. Now, in terms of skill pages, I do not have her skill page because I was not lucky enough to pull it, at least not yet. And so in that case, if you don't have her skill page, I do recommend any skill page that is going to be more defensive. You can, of course, run other support skill pages on her, like Sally's skill page or stuff like that. So those work out just fine. But in this case, grants a 56% increased defense buff and 7.6% increased HP recovery buff. This is just going to help her stay alive so she can do her supporting job better. Now, once again, the best possible skill page you can equip on her, though, is going to be her own skill page. Let me show you guys why. So her skill page is called Party on the Ground, and it is a general use skill page, which is interesting. So you can actually use this on pretty much any supporter you want, which makes it really good. When using the special skill, grants a 30% damage increase buff for 2 turns to the ally with the highest all attack, cannot stack. So that's 30% more damage you can add on with your special skill, right? That in and of itself is very, very good. But then additionally, on her skill 2, she gives herself SP plus 3 back whenever she uses her skill 2, allowing you to get your special back faster, allowing you to stack those Arias a little bit quicker as well for the opening Aria. So her skill page is just overall the best possible skill page you can equip to her. But if you don't have her skill page, I would probably personally recommend a defensive skill page. And then if you don't have a defensive skill page, you might want to go for another supportive skill page, potentially someone like Sally's skill page. Now, in terms of gear, this is how I build most of my supporters, and I just like it because it gives speed, right? So if we take a look at her speed, it's not the highest for a supporter type character, and unfortunately, with supporters, the way they work, you want them going before your attackers or whoever's going to be doing the big amounts of damage, right? So you have to build them for almost a full speed set. It's almost like, you know, necessary. There's no other way to do it. So build her for a full speed set. I do recommend a gold speed set. What do I mean when I say gold speed sets? If you go to grade, you go to set, you have all your sets here: attack, defense, HP, so on and so forth. Here's your mobility set. Well, over here we have the same thing: attack, defense, HP, mobility, but they have a gold star on them. Gold sets are always better than regular sets because they get better stats, okay? So go for a gold mobility set on her. I do recommend that. And then I would probably go for a defensive set secondary on her to give her more survivability and to allow her to do her supporting job. Now, in terms of what you're going for here, you're going to go for magic attack as your main stats on these pieces, and then defense on these pieces right here. Magic attack. Oh, I should have a magic attack piece right there. I have the wrong piece. You should have a magic attack piece right there. I have the wrong one. And then you should have an HP piece. Okay, so that's the general main stat for all of those pieces. And then substat wise, what I do recommend you go for is defense percentage is always going to be good on a supporter to help keep them alive. I would also recommend going for like damage resist. Damage resist is very helpful. Crit resist is always really good. And then if all else fails, you can go for HP, kind of like I have here. A little bit of extra HP, never hurt anybody. It's going to help you stay alive a little bit longer. But in general, I would go defense percentage, damage resist, and crit resist. Those things are going to help keep Kahono alive and allow her to do her job. And then in terms of enhancement, is Kahono worth enhancing or not? So if you get her to 2 dupes, upon taking damage, grants opening Aria to the ally with the highest attack. So getting her to 2 dupes, I would say, is very, very good and very necessary if you want to make full use of her maximum damage with the opening Aria, turning into Festival Aria, and all that good stuff. As for getting her to 5 dupes, I would say it's not necessary, but it is nice to do if you are able. Okay, so you get the additional effect when getting her to 5 dupes of, upon using a special skill, grants 1 extra instance of opening Aria to a designated ally. So that just allows you to get that extra penetration and stuff like that a little bit earlier than you might otherwise. And you also get more speed for getting her up there, right? So getting her to 4 dupes, you get more speed, and then 5 dupes, you get that effect. So it kind of is worth duping her out if you can, but not necessary. I feel like this is a character who still has a lot of use in the game just in general as a support without getting any dupes. So in general, my advice is, as a free-to-play player, you don't need to worry about dupes. Getting a copy of her is good enough. She will be very, very good for you. If you're a light spender, I would go for 2 stars. And then if you're a whale or just get very lucky like I did, then you can go for a max duping this Kahono out, and she's very good then. But just in general, you do not need to chase dupes. She has a lot of value without having any dupes put into her. Now, in terms of talents, the attack tree doesn't really matter. I would just personally go for like magic attack and stacking crit rate. You can honestly go for damage dealt and this one right here, crit damage, if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to make a difference because she's never going to do like any damage. So don't worry about the attack tree. As for the defense tree, you can go one of 2 ways. You are going to have the defense plus 20% no matter what, but then you can go for the stacking defense and crit resist, or you can go for the debuff immunity that is going to proc when your HP drops below 35%, which is kind of nice because it makes sure she's not going to get debuffed and she's still going to be allowed to do her thing when she drops below a certain amount of health. So that's honestly pretty useful. And then for the support tree, I do recommend going for damage resist, and then you can go one of 2 ways on this as well. You can go for the classic grants SP plus 1 when you're below 2 SPs. You probably want this if you don't have her skill page. Now, if you do have her skill page, I wouldn't worry about this, and I would go for the Mage's Blessing. Mage's Blessing gives you a 20% chance to reduce your skill 2 cooldown buff at the start of a turn. This is really nice because if you do have her skill page, right, you give yourself SP plus 3 whenever you use skill 2. Say you reduce that cooldown with the 20% chance, then you're able to use skill 2 again immediately and give yourself another 3 SP. So this is actually like the best, in my opinion, slot you can activate here in the support tree right here. So I would go for that. And then once you get the support tree done, I do recommend a speed stone right there to give her the maximum amount of speed so she's faster than the rest of your team. Defense tree, I would go with a defense stone. For the attack tree, once again, doesn't matter. You can go magic attack if you want. The attack tree literally does not matter, will never matter. She will, and if you ever build Kahono for attack or magic attack, you got some issues, okay? But let's go ahead and take a look at the teams that she can fit on last but not least. So I have a couple of ideas here for teams that would work for her. So this one's like the most obvious team. It's going to work really well for like the raid and stuff like that. You are going to be using Witch Queen to drop Asta into anti-magic. You have Kahono to extend his buffs to also give him the extra attack, extra damage, opening Aria, all that good stuff. She provides so much support to him. And then you have Charlotte here for the extra damage reduction. Charlotte is negotiable. You could switch her out depending on if you're taking on PvE or PvP content, but this right here is kind of an ideal all-around PvE and PvP team. I can see this working in PvP as well as PvE. So I think, you know, this Kahono is just going to have so many uses in the game. Like, honestly, she's going to be absolutely insane. She will probably be used everywhere. Kind of like Sally was used everywhere in PvE. I think Kahono will be used everywhere in PvE. I think she will have a limited amount of uses in PvP, but I think she can still be very good in PvP as well. Now, going back into the PvP teams, here is a mono green team that I think could work very well. Now, the thing is, you do have to have this Jack Max duped, but this Jack Max duped is going to just do tons of damage, and he does like indiscriminate damage to people, which I think could be a lot of fun with Kahono buffing the crap out of him. I think he could just honestly wipe a team with Kahono's buffs. I think it could be a lot of fun to try out, so I will definitely be testing this team out. Now, if you don't have this Jack, you can run pretty much any attacker unit. You could run this Yami right here. Green Yami would work pretty well. If you have Licked built for attack, you can run Licked. If you have Raya built for attack, you could run Raya as far as mono green teams go. And if you don't want to run mono green teams, you can run any character that basically is built for attack, like Red Yami, stuff like that, and it will probably work out. Like, she's just a really good attack supporter type character who will support characters that have high built attack stats. And what do I mean by high built attack stats? Well, if we go into Yami right here, you'll see his attack is higher than his magic attack. That's what I mean. He has 32,000 attack, so she's just going to buff that number and make him do absolutely crazy damage. So these are in general the teams that I would run for Kahono. If you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, and hitting that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.